All right. So a few months back, we had a great opportunity to talk to Colin Mochrie, who you would know from Whose Line Is It Anyway? And our guest tonight is someone who I guess you could call his other half, at least on stage. So please welcome to the show our guest, the Brad Sherwood. Brad, thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, my pleasure. I'm here to set the record straight on all of the fabrications and lies that Colin perpetrated on your show.
It's funny you bring that up, too, because, like I said, when we spoke to him a couple months ago, we asked him for advice on what to say to you when we got the chance to talk to you, and he pretty much told us we shouldn't even tape it, that we wouldn't get anything out of you. You pretty much just talk about your time on the dating game.
Yeah, he's pretty bitter. Most people get, in most partnerships, one is the funny one and one is the good-looking one, and somehow I got both of those cards, so I'm not sure what he does.
Well, hopefully we'll get this interview down, and we're taping anyway against his better judgment. So,
whether we use it is another story. But at least
we'll use it. I'm sure we'll use it. So you're back on tour with Colin, and your tours seem to be never ending. I mean, you're one of the few touring acts that I've ever seen that has dates booked probably like a good 2 years in advance. And I'm kind of hoping the answer to this question is no, because I love seeing you guys. I've seen you guys at least 3 times. I plan on seeing you even more. There's no chance of the show ever coming to an end anytime soon, I would assume.
Yeah, well, we call this our part-time job, and we've now been doing it for going on 11 years. So we are happy to do it, and we both love performing in front of a live audience. That's both. I think we both have a background in theater and live comedy. So to get a chance to improv, which is our favorite thing, and to be on stage the whole time, it's just sort of a dream gig for us. So we literally gave it a try way back when, as an offshoot from when the whole gang would do Super Bowl shows in Vegas, and there'd be like 10 or 12 of us on stage. You'd get up and you'd do a game, and then you'd sit on the stools and wait for like 4 games before you got back up again. So we were kind of like the special teams on a football team. So you only get to kick a field goal once every 30, 40 plays. So we liked getting on stage and being up there the whole time, and we've sort of never stopped because people keep coming to see us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you've been doing it for 11 years now, and other than probably popularity-wise, what's been different for you guys while you're touring now compared to when you started? Because, 11 years ago, that's 2004. I don't even know if smartphones were as prevalent as they are now. So, I got to imagine a lot has changed in the past 12 years.
We always tell people not to record our show on their phones, but invariably after every performance, there's, videos up on YouTube, which then expose the fact that we do the exact same show every single night. No, there are bits, we always sing a goodnight song, and we do the mousetrap game, so people always want to tape that stuff. And they tape their friends when the friends are dragged up on stage. So it's kind of hard to keep them from doing it. The people that promote our tour every once in a while will go on YouTube and, send a cease and desist order to YouTube about some video that's up there. But, it doesn't really matter to us. But I would say that as far as what has changed, I would say actually the phones now that they all have the little flashlight light with the camera.
Yeah.
Now at the end when we sing and do stuff, they hold them up. It's kind of like being at a concert.
Oh, that's cool.
With the lighters from back in the 80s.
Yeah. You mentioned, you said all the goodbye song that you do in the Mousetrap game, and I had personally asked Colin about the Mousetrap game, and I asked him, where it had come from, and he said that it came from your dark, demented mind, and that you guys have actually at some point tried to ease it out of the show, just because, it's one of your least favorite games, and I can only imagine why it's one of your least favorite games that you guys do, but the audience just loves it too much. Can we still count on seeing it during this tour?
Yeah, it's sort of the beast that we can't kill, and I can't take full credit for it being my idea. It's not my idea. It was an old, weird improv game that was in this sort of compiled list of crazy ideas from hundreds of improvisers from around the country and really around the world. There was a group called Theater Sports, and they still exist in some cities around the country. And a bunch of them had compiled all the different ideas and games, and so it was just in the back of this. It was kind of the Necronomicon. What is it called? The Necromonicon?
The Necrocomic. Yeah, no, I forget.
Yeah. No, Necrocomicon is when dead people go to Comic-Con.
Go to Comic-Con.
Yes. So anyway,
actually...
whatever that book is, covered with dead flesh, yes. It was the improv version of that, and I sort of, we chanted the idea to do this, and now we can't kill it.
Yeah, I think Colin called
the
it...
The audience loves it just that much.
Yeah, Colin called it the vampire, just because no matter how... You just can't kill it no matter what you try and do with it.
Yeah, and, we hate it because it hurts our feet, and we feel like we've been doing it long enough that nobody wants to see it anymore, and we can feel a palpable disappointment if we don't do it. So we're like, okay, this is going to be tied to us like a giant goiter for the rest of our lives.
I'm sure it hurts a little more than your feet, because I've seen those mousetraps placed in certain places on your body alone from Colin that no mousetrap should go close to.
For some reason, he seems to have a really good radar as to exactly the height and level of my junk at all times. So he seems to, even when he's blindfolded, able to launch them right at my private parts. But I'm thinking of maybe like the Patriots. I'm going to deflate my balls a few percentage points so they don't hurt quite as much.
Oh, man.
Well, I mean, obviously the tour is improv, but people do have tendencies to come up with the same ideas, other than obviously just, I know Colin says a lot of people say like gynecology or something along those lines, but even stuff you actually want to pick, people have the tendency to come up with the same idea. How often do the same audience suggestions come up and have you choose them? And when they do you go back to something you've used in the past that really hit big, or do you try and use something else that, to make sure you switch it up every show?
We try and switch it up because we're playing a lot of the same games. And, we just sort of, for a while now, we've retired a game called Moving Bodies, and we replace it with another game called Living Scenery, where the audience does all the sort of the moving themselves. And but for a while, because you're playing the game over and over again, you want to reach for new suggestions, because the last thing you want to do is somehow be in the same city 3 years later and accidentally take the same suggestion. And then people are like, well, you did firemen for sound effects both times you were here. So then they think we're doing firemen only all over the country. So we actually recently came up with a way of shaking it up so that we almost never get the same suggestion twice. We used to come up with ideas for what to ask for before any particular game. And then Colin had the idea to write down a bunch of sort of obtuse ways of asking for suggestions on cards, and he laminated them. And then before each game, so we had like 10 cards, we sort of fan them out for an audience person. They choose a card. So now we've already had a 1 in 10 chance of the way we're asking for a suggestion happening again in that game. And then based on whatever they're asking for, because they're way more vague and less specific than just like a dangerous occupation, which was a common one we used to have. Yeah. It really spins the wheel of randomness so that we almost never would get a suggestion. However, if within a couple of days, if we ask for something in like an adventurous activity, if we got kayaking and then someone else yelled out kayaking, we'll say, oh, we just recently had that, so we throw that one away and take the next thing. Yeah, because we don't want to do the same things over and over again.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, like I said, I've seen you a couple times, and it's been a different show every time. So it's, I think that's one of the things that makes your tour so great.
Well, I think we play better when we're launching off into the unknown. There are certain things like even in the Mousetrap game, if you've seen that more than once, there are a couple of things in that kind of happen the same, because that's sort of like just a classic goofy thing that we do. So some classic bits with him trying to get me are going to happen, but we say that our show is basically 99.99% improvised, So if we do a 2 hour and 15-minute show and there's like 1 or 2 minutes of little nuggets that you might have seen before, so be it.
Yeah,
so there's not much you can change when you're constantly being attacked by mousetraps. You can only react in paint so many different ways.
Yeah, it's the least improv-y game that we do because it's such a physical gimmick. So that's why we really try to raise the stakes and keep innovating and coming up with new games. As many as we can each year that we go out, we come up with a couple of new ones. And so that makes it fun for not only the audience that comes back and they're like, okay, every time we do go see them, we see at least 2 or 3 new games that we never saw before. So we owe it to them, and we play better when we're playing scared. I think the better you are as an improviser, the better you do when you truly launch yourself into the unknown.
Yeah. I know from seeing you on Whose Line, I know that impressions are a big part of the games that you guys played, and you yourself have done quite a few different ones. I mean, you did Springsteen, Bob Dylan, Jimmy Stewart, and I know 2 of my personal favorites were Mick Jagger and Fred Schneider from the B-52s, which you had done quite a few times. Those impressions to me were pretty spot on. And one of the things I've always wondered when it comes to impressions like that, were those impressions ones that you intentionally learned, or were they just something you discovered on your own, just messing around and doing different improv along the way?
Well, the funny thing is, before I did Whose Line, I had never done any type of musical improv where I was directly spoofing or impersonating existing artists. But when we were doing Greatest Hits on that show, they wanted to send up a bunch of different people. So we would do, musical style, I don't want to call them rehearsals, but they just wanted to see what we might do if, can we do an adequate spoof of, say, the Rolling Stones or the B-52s. They just wanted to know that we could do it enough that we might plausibly pass as, oh, this is a tip of the hat to that. So it wasn't until literally in a meeting with the producers and just sort of hearing the kind of music that the band might play, and they threw B-52s at us, that I just started singing the way I thought Fred Schneider sounded in my head, having grown up listening to the B-52s, and everybody started laughing. I was like, oh, I guess this sounds exactly like it. So that and Mick Jagger and Springsteen, all these literally, I found out about them the day Whose Line found out that I could do them. I was not the guy that walked around with this bag of impressions that he could do. I remember I could do Kermit when I was a kid. That was like, I could do some of the Muppets. I liked to pretend to be the Muppets, but I was not an impersonator or doing impressions at all. So I was literally trying to come up with them on the spot when they did. There was some game we played. I don't think they played it for years, but it was bad impressions, and we just had to start doing a scene. It was kind of like the questions game. Each time we came into the scene, we had to come in as a different person. And I invariably, the only ones I could do were James Mason, James Stewart, and the rest were cartoon characters. I had never done that before. So I think I've been pegged over time as one of the guys that does impressions. That's been, part of my arsenal my entire life, and it really wasn't until they asked me to do it.
Yeah,
You're
and
like the Frank Caliendo of music impressions.
Oh, yes. Doesn't he do music, too?
I don't know. I don't know.
I've always been amazed. Rich Little and Frank Caliendo, those guys have always amazed me. So
yeah.
I can get away with it by doing it while I'm singing, because then I'm just basically trying to replicate what I heard on the radio.
Yeah. I just had a question pop into my head that is something I was always curious about, and I don't know if it's a secret of the games or whatever, but maybe you can help shed a little light on it as well. I know when you guys played Greatest Hits and things like that, it always made me wonder. Because I know a lot of the things that happen behind the scenes. I watched a good 40-minute gag reel of Whose Line that just cracked me up. So I know obviously there's production breaks and things like that were in the show. But when it comes to the musicians that were on, Lauren Hall, I think, was the piano player.
Yeah, Laura Hall. Yeah,
Laura Hall,
Linda Taylor,
and Linda Taylor. Whenever Colin and Ryan would come up with the music style to give them, would they come up with that and play that right on the spot, or were they kind of prepped beforehand that these are the styles that they might mention?
Yeah, those guys were. The way it would work is the music singers like me and Wayne. We would have a music rehearsal with the producers and Linda and Laura, and they would sort of ask them, what would you play if we did could you do sort of a rip-off this is the producer's voice. Could you do like a Rolling Stones something, and then they would start riffing on that, and then they would say to us, okay, and then they would turn to a PA or something and say, give us a title for Songs of the Dentist, and they would go, My Tooth Hurts. And they say, okay, do a Rolling Stones of My Tooth Hurts. And then Linda and Laura would like maybe play something like Gimme Shelter or whatever, and then Wayne and I would just sing like 2 lines of that, so they would see if stylistically that would be entertaining for the show. Does it sound enough like a Rolling Stones that we would go, okay, that sounds like Rolling Stones, and was it a tempo that would move fast enough that we could get out a couple of lyrics and verses in a quick amount of time, because everything kind of had to be a fast version of whatever type of music we were spoofing.
Yeah.
And so then they would make their notes like, oh, that's a good one. Okay, yes. So we can do Rolling Stones, and we can do. So then in that rehearsal, they would find 10 to 15 that they really liked that Wayne and I did together, and then from those 10 to 15, they would decide which ones they wanted to see on the show, and then they would give like I don't know how many of those to Colin and Ryan.
Okay, yeah, because I knew that the lyrics that you and Wayne were coming up with were improv, obviously, because they were coming from suggestions from the audience. But right. I was just always curious about the style, and always wondered if Laura, and Linda were so quick, like musically improv, or improv musically like that they could come up with that. So that was something that I was always curious about.
They and Ryan and Colin would have just advanced notice of like. Because they would usually give us like 3 songs, so they probably want to give us 5 just so that they could choose the best 3.
Yeah.
For the show.
Right.
So before the show, the only prep that those guys would all have is what 5 genres they were going to throw at us, and Wayne and I would have no idea. We wouldn't know what style it was going to be, and then obviously. We wouldn't know what the subject matter or the title was going to be till the moment it was thrown out by Ryan and Colin, who were making up the titles on the spot based on what the occupation was.
Yeah.
Well, speaking on improv in general, I mean, I know Whose Line would use 4, sometimes 5, when the guests would come on, and then obviously with you and Colin, it's 2. How many players would you say is too many when it comes to improv? I mean, have you ever done like 6, 7, you know what I mean, like an all-star type of thing where you have a bunch of guys out there?
Yeah, there's a traffic pattern problem the moment there are 3 people on stage.
Okay.
Because a conversation is between 2 people.
Right.
So, and if something is dramatic and happening between those 2 people, the third person, by nature, in a conversation is going to have to find ways to get into that conversation.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
So when if I say something, Colin responds, and then his response I have to respond to. So there's a natural flow between 2 people improvising because they're just reacting back and forth like in tennis.
Right.
But now imagine you're playing tennis with a sort of a Y-shaped net, and each guy is on a third of the court, and you don't know which way the ball's going to go, but the ball can only be hit by one person at a time.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
So if I'm hitting the ball over to you, then Adam is on the other net waiting for it to come back to me. To come to him. So he's always going to be temporarily dormant until the ball is coming to him, and then between the 2 that are hitting, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no,
that does.
I think the
nature of any conversation is speaking and responding and speaking and responding, and the third person, who whatever the accusation was not levied toward, literally has to butt in or interject or stop the flow of what. Right. If you and I are having an argument, he has to jump in at the last, to get his words in.
Yeah, I think the stand, sit, kneel game would probably be a good example of the confusion that having a third person in would be.
Well, I mean, and also with improv, I mean, it kind of benefits from the knowledge of pop culture and current events, especially when it comes to some, jokes. Do you go out of your way to stay in tune with that kind of stuff, like what movies and shows are popular or current events, or does that kind of come naturally to you?
I have a curious mind, so I don't like pour over. We certainly don't do a lot of political or current events stuff. And our show, because we're bringing audience members up on stage and we're playing games, there's not going to be a bunch of pop culture people references like Lindsay Lohan or Kim Kardashian or whatever. There might be a joke if someone says something about a big butt, then a Kim Kardashian reference could come in. But we don't have to sort of absorb everything that way. But it's certainly good to know about genres and styles so that you can spoof them, and you don't want to be completely oblivious to waves that are sweeping the nation. Like what was that dance that Psy did? I've completely forgotten it.
Gangnam Style?
Gangnam Style?
Yes. Oh, thank God that's already out of my mind. But yeah. Like, you don't want to miss that because that might come up, and you want to be able to at least do a bad version of it. I certainly wouldn't stand in the front of the mirror and try and do it, but in my brain, having seen it on television, if someone had said that as a suggestion, I certainly wouldn't want to go, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
The show, obviously, back to Whose Line for a second, the show has obviously seen a couple different iterations, from the British iteration and then over to America. There's been 2 different ones. We haven't seen you as much in the new iteration of the show on CW. Any chance that we're going to see you some more in this new season that's coming up?
Yes, I am shooting in March. They're shooting some right now in January, and I know I have a tape day or 2 in March. And, of course, they generally get 2 to 3 episodes out of any one taping.
Okay, cool.
So, yeah. When they first brought it back, the producers told me and Greg that they weren't sure we were even going to be on the show again because the CW network wanted lots of young, new, different faces. They didn't want to feel like they were just buying the old ABC version.
Yeah.
So they put their fingerprints on it and added some new people. And finally on second season, Greg and I both got to come back, which was very nice.
Yeah.
And you got to keep the old guard around at least for a courtesy visit.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and with you and Brad touring, I mean, obviously you guys have great chemistry, so that obviously shows, on the show as well as the tour.
Yeah.
Did you just say him and Brad? Because he is Brad.
Is like,
That's why I said Colin.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I have really good chemistry with myself anyway. So I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah, because I think CW did a good job, at least. They kind of found a little bit of a niche by bringing on other stars to kind of participate with you guys in the games. Yeah. So I think that kind of keeps it a little younger and fresh at the same time. Yeah,
well, they bring out a lot of people that are on CW shows, too, which, is great. Product placement makes sense to me.
Yeah, because I think one of the episodes you were on, you were with Misha Collins from Supernatural, I think.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And has Supernatural asked me to be on the show? No. That seems kind of rude, I think.
I would agree.
Quid pro quo.
Besides Greg and obviously Colin and Ryan, I think you're one of the few people that has had the opportunity to be part of both the British version of Whose Line and both American versions with Drew and Aisha. Out of all 3 versions, is there a certain host that you prefer between Clive or Drew or Aisha? Is there anyone that are your favorite?
Well, they're so different. To me, they are all really funny people, and I've actually known all of them for a long time. I knew Aisha. We were both doing comedy. I was in an improv group that played at the Laugh Factory in L.A. every Sunday night, and she was the host there on Sunday nights. And this was back in the 90s. So I have I've actually known her longer than either of the other 2 hosts. So,
okay.
And she is super funny, and Drew was like one of my best buddies, and he laughed harder than anyone.
Yeah.
At home watching the show. So he was like this great fuel sitting at the desk giggling like a little boy the whole time we were doing the show. So that was fun, and he was such an easy person to pick on, because he just sort of begged for it, and he would come up and do a game with us, and we all got to make fun of him for it. And then, Clive was like the British David Letterman, just super sarcastic and snide. So you had to walk around him with a certain deference because you didn't want him to flay you open with a sarcastic comment. So, it's kind of fun because each show has had its own host personality that adds to the personality of the show.
Yeah.
Now, Aisha is totally a smartass, so she laps everybody in line, almost like the dominatrix teacher, handing out the scores and making snarky remarks.
Yeah.
So that's fun. And then, Drew was like our goofy friend who was driving the bus that we sometimes put kick me signs on. So there's like these different relationships.
Yeah, I loved Drew as the host because, like you said, he would laugh harder than the audience sometimes, and just his laugh was so infectious that anytime he lost it, I lost it sitting watching at home. Like I just loved that. I thought it was great.
He's got a very infectious laugh.
Yeah, definitely.
I always found it funny too that with Drew back when the Drew Carey show was on. Like, I just remember when I was younger, I'm like watching Who's Line. I'm like, wait, all these people are like on the Drew Carey show at one point or another, and thinking about it really makes me hope that or wish that show was still on the air because that was such a great show, and it was so funny.
Yeah.
You did a couple episodes of Drew too, didn't you? You were the host of the live shows.
Yeah. I think we did 3 of them. 3 seasons they had us come and do the Who's Line Live, where we sort of parachuted in and destroyed the semblance of order of a sitcom.
Do you have a favorite Who's Line game?
Oh, it's so hard to say. I mean, I'm a big fan of the musical ones just because they're so challenging.
Yeah.
Literally, you hear a title and you're trying to make a contextual sense of what you're saying. It has to rhyme, and it has to be funny. And then based on the style, you have to be singing it on key to notes that you don't know where they're going, and do service to, if it's Bruce Springsteen, sort of sound like him. So it's kind of like the plate spinning game where you've got like intellectually 8 plates going at the same time. Whereas most of the other games, you're just sort of in a conversation hoping that you can say something funny to the guy that's saying something to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard Colin told me that my favorite game, the props game, is the most hated game on Who's Line.
Yeah, it's just kind of, it's like a riffing on cleverness. I never minded it much just because when I was a kid I was a cartoonist, so I think sort of spatially and visually about what things are and sort of look like when they're not what they actually are.
Yeah.
But I think it just went on too long, so in the live tapings, there were usually 3 or 4 that were just not funny. So you've got all these really funny people doing like 5 really funny ones, and then 3 or 4 that just are like dud,
Yeah.
And we don't like to do that. We don't like to be dragged into the dud zone when we can be funny and all these other things.
Actually, let's be correct for a second, Adam. I think Colin said that it was everyone's least favorite game behind Hoedown.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. Well, Hoedown, is Hoedown because it literally ended every single show since the show began, basically. So Ryan and Colin, I don't think, have ever known an episode not singing Hoedown. And, it's like we're done with it. That's, I think, why they feel that way. Of course, I'm not doing every episode, so I'm just so excited to be there taping that I would sing, 10 Hoedowns at a taping.
Yeah. Any plans to adapt any other Who's Line games to the tour while you guys are out?
We're kind of always innovating. I mean, the key is it has to be a game that works well with just 2 players, and it has to be a game where if there is a caller that we, that's a facilitator that somehow calls some aspect of the game, that we can give that power to the audience.
Yeah.
And it has to be the power that we can give them so that they can switch it up and change it if they need to. But there's a certain delicacy to comedic timing to know when and instinctually what is the best way to do that. So you can't hand them the reins to drive a scene into the ditch, if that makes sense. You don't want to leave them so much responsibility that they're either undercalling or overcalling a game. So we have to always factor that part in to make it as goofy and silly. And we like to bring as many people up on stage as possible. So we're always trying to figure out how we can take old improv games and somehow bring an audience member up on stage for it.
Yeah. I can't remember if this is a game I've seen you guys do or not. Have you guys ever done quick change on stage?
Yeah, quick change. We call it new choice.
Okay.
Whose Line calls it quick change. But yes, we used to do that all the time, and then we've sort of done several variations of it.
Okay.
And then we always did it with the gang in Vegas, too, for all the Super Bowl shows.
Gotcha.
On the flip side of that, are there any ones that you guys came up with that you ended up getting onto Whose Line at some point? Or obviously not Mousetraps, but...
Yeah, Quick Change, actually, which I called New Choice, was a game that I came up with when I was teaching improv and theater sports way back when.
That's pretty cool.
And the Sideways scene, which they're doing now on Whose Line, we did at Just for Laughs when we were hosting Just for Laughs in Montreal a bunch of years ago. You can actually look it up on YouTube.
Everything's
we were in our
tuxedos.
we were in our tuxedos, and we did the Sideways scene where we had them call different styles. So we played the styles game as a Sideways scene, and it was really fun. And so that was the first time that came to television. And now they're doing it on Whose Line, and they also did it on a show called Trust Us With Your Life that the producers of Whose Line also did.
Okay.
Well, before we let you get going, I had one more question. Like I had watched a couple earlier interviews with you, and this was one. It had to be probably close to 10 years ago, but it was on some local TV station, and they pulled out a hat and pulled little things out of a hat, just like scenes from a hat, and they had you improvise on camera. Did that happen, and does that still happen very often? I mean, I gotta imagine that gets annoying after a while. You're there just to kind of to talk, and they kind of doesn't that feel like you're like dance puppet?
Yeah, that was kind of a comedy ambush. But looking back, I mean, as awful as awkward as it still makes me cringe when I watch it. It wasn't as bad as it could be.
About?
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah, I remember because it's the only time I let it happen.
Okay.
Because normally people will be like, okay, so we were thinking of doing this, and then you go, oh, I don't think that would be a good idea. They didn't mention that, so they just launched it on me when I was actually doing.
You didn't seem like it was coming.
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
and they were like, I don't know what they were doing. It was not scenes from a hat or one line, world's like what they were asking me to do was basically impossible. So I was. In my brain, I was like, okay, I have to come up with one-line funny things to say to whatever this scenario is. It literally has to be a one-sentence punchline that I am synthesizing from these, morning show, producers, hey, this would be funny type ideas that they had thrown into a hat.
Yeah, I think the first one was about I think it was about I think it might have been like an OJ thing. So the first one was about homicide.
Yes, which is always hilarious.
Yeah, right, exactly.
All right, so we'll make a note of that. If we ever get to talk to Brad again in the future, do not improvise a game for him to do.
Or give him a heads up about it.
Yeah.
Well, that I was thinking, I'm like, that never even crossed my mind to do that in an interview with someone doing improv. It's like that. You do that all the time. You're here to just kind of talk.
Radio shows always want us to do that. Like when they invite us in to come to the radio station, they always want to play a game with us. And invariably, the only thing we ever offer to do with them is do a spoof radio show.
Yeah,
because
that's cool.
It's like the only thing that actually will work because what we do is theatrical and is reliant upon getting audience reaction. So it's almost like do a comedy show in a vacuum. Well, you can't really do it. Just like a stand-up would not want to do his act at the radio station.
Yeah.
He would sit and have a conversation with them and then say funny things based on what's going on in the conversation. Right. But he wouldn't want to launch into the first 2 minutes of his set.
Yeah, but because like you said, there's no audience to gauge the reaction from.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it would be death if you asked any bona fide, established, high-level comedian to go on a radio show and just start their act. Nobody would want to do it.
Yeah.
It would be like, it makes me cringe just thinking of it.
Well, it's like anytime you watch Last Comic Standing and the comics are auditioning for a panel of 3 people, It's always kind of awkward, and it's tough on the comedian too, because it's the comedian can't even judge how their act is going without an audience. It's just these three stone-faced judges.
Yeah.
So, but you guys are back on tour right now. I know you're going to be coming back to we're in the Philadelphia area. You're going to be coming back to our area November 21st, and I know I will definitely be in the audience for that.
Terrific.
So
excellent. We'll come backstage and say hi when you do.
We would love to. We actually asked Colin about that, and he said absolutely. We could come back and meet you guys. So that just reaffirms that you just said that too. So we will definitely take advantage of that.
Colin is actually 2'3", but he wears these lifts in his shoes, so you'll be surprised at just how short he is.
Awesome.
Yeah, I haven't seen a show yet, so I'm really excited for you guys to get back in town, because I think last time you were at that theater was probably 2 years by the time you get back to it. So I don't even know that I knew you guys were coming to town. So now that I know and have a heads up, I'm definitely clearing my calendar, because like Ben said, I've heard you guys are fantastic, and I expect I'm not surprised by that at all after seeing you guys.
We always say we're the second funniest comedy show you will ever see. And then when people say, well, what's the first? I say, well, just legally, we want that disclaimer so that you can't sue us and ask for your money back.
That's a good one. But yeah, appreciate the invite, Brad. We'd definitely take advantage of that. Come back and meet you guys. We'd love to meet you guys.
Great.
So we want to point people to your Twitter account, @TheBradSherwood. And also your website, bradsherwood.com, as well as colinandbradshow.com, which is where people can find...
That one's, as far as websites go, that one's the one to check out, because that one has all the updated tour information. colinandbradshow.com. Now, it may have a bunch of dates listed in January, but those are false, because Whose Line is taping right now. So
okay.
Some of those have gotten moved, and hopefully they've updated it, but, I'm relaxing at home, and I'm not going to look.
Well, we'll do the research, and we'll make sure people are updated on that too.
Yeah.
So, but this was
Terrific.
this was a lot of fun, Brad. Thanks for spending some time with us tonight.
Yeah, man.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So,
and I'll see you guys when we come to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
All right.
Looking forward to it.
All right.
So, all right. Thanks, Brad.
No problem. Take care.